People whose first relationship was very long term. What weird thing did you believe was normal until you started seeing other people? She made me believe the old TV tropes of women never wanting sex. I had to work my ass off to get her to give me some action. The next girl I had was just fucking amazed that I didn't just ask for it when I wanted it. The bewildered look on her face when she finally asked, "You realize I'm horny to right?" I texted my then new girlfriend about where I was and who I was with about every 30 minutes. After the third time, she told me that she didn't need to get updates on what I was doing and to just let her know when I got home safe. I remember feeling almost a physical weight being lifted off my chest because I didn't have to worry about my girlfriend freaking out if I didn't update her. I learned what trust felt like that night. I thought most guys liked having their nipples played with because my first ex did. My second boyfriend was so confused when I started licking his titty mayo that some girls in a relationship don't like to kiss as often as others. I'm just talking about pecs when I/GF gets home, etc. I always enjoyed a hello kiss, but I guess some girls don't. People's love languages are all different. It's especially jarring when you have a lot of experience doing things a certain way and then finding out that isn't what somebody else needs. It can take some work to figure out what's inherent to yourself and what was learned from your partner. Just a SFW remark. Her father hating me. I just thought this was normal, but in the subsequent 3 relationships, last one turning into a marriage and family, the parents were kind, and I couldn't believe that is possible. Sorry, I don't have any NSFW things. All the girls were very open to experiments. It wasn't super long term, only about a year, but when you're in high school that's fairly long term. My ex was a very clingy dude, sweet, but would follow me around every social gathering and get jealous of me spending time with my friends. When I started dating the guy who is now my husband, I remember looking around at a party early on of mostly my friends that he hadn't met before, and I couldn't find him. I asked someone where he was, and he was out by the fire with a group of people chatting and hanging out. I was astonished that we could just go our separate ways in a social setting, and that was totally fine. We didn't have to be attached at the hip the whole time. I tried to change her. That was my emotional insecurity. My bad, Melissa. This is a little strange, I guess, sort of an individual thing, but with my first 2 relationships, 5 years total between the 2, I never realized how cuddly I am. I used to hate being touched or kissed, and I never realized that wasn't just the way I was. I even thought I might be asexual, but deep down I knew that wasn't the case. My fiancé used to be the same way, but when we met, somehow things just clicked into place. That every time was essentially a quickie. Almost a whole decade of nothing but 5 thrusts, and then blast off. After that relationship ended, I felt like Jasmine on a magic carpet ride, a whole new world. Psychological abuse. I have a physical reaction now when my current partners are nice to me. When I do something he would have berated me for hours and locked me in my room for. Like, I get a panic attack *BECAUSE* my partners are nice to me when I drop a glass, or got laid off, or forgot to unload the dishwasher. And then they don't bring it up every time they're irritated with me. My ex was still yelling at me 14 years later for shit I did when we first started dating. Shit like I forgot to pick up his laundry from the floor, or bought the wrong brand of bacon. At the end there, the lectures lasted hours as he recounted 14 years of offenses. My current partners? They don't throw shit in my face that I did the day before. The dissonance is crazy. I knew the other abuse wasn't normal, but my stepdad is the same way with my mom, so I had no idea. I just thought it's how men are. My ex basically taught me that it wasn't okay for me to be upset about things. Every time I would get my feelings hurt, even when I was upset about something completely unrelated to him, it was somehow flipped around, so I ended up reassuring and comforting him. That shit really messed me up, and I basically had to relearn how to be vulnerable with my so. He also had a very solid plan of how he expected me to live my life, Basically his main goal for me was to have kids and be a good housewife. Yikes. On the bright side, nowadays I'm happily engaged and my fiance treats me with so much love and respect. He's supportive of my dreams and we are able to lean on each other in times of hardship. I would lick the side of my first girlfriend's face like a dog and she loved it. My second girlfriend slapped me when I tried to edit my first gold. Thanks. I was not expecting so many people would relate to that. Porn is not a documentary. Being used as a sex doll, contorted into uncomfortable positions, and pounded until you bleed, can't stand up, or just break down crying from the pain isn't normal, nor is anal sex a necessity. We were both virgins, and he had major porn brain. I thought I was bad at sex and would never be able to have a positive experience with intimacy until I finally left him and was with my second boyfriend. I'm okay now, but wow, was that a horrible person to lose my virginity to. Your partner should actually make an effort to spend time with you. You shouldn't have to surprise them to spend any time with them. A lot of girls like to fuck. Being cowed into an open arrangement equals normal. Him introducing me to friends while hanging out or going to parties, and then him telling me later in the evening after the ice had broken that they were actually the girl or girls he was fucking. Capitulating to his insistence that we continue to hang out even though I was uncomfortable with knowing this new information equals normal. Him making unwelcome and uncomfortable comments to other women I was friends with in front of me to attempt to orchestrate threesomes that I was not okay with. Normal. If you love me, you'll chase after me equals normal. If you love me, you'll leave FaceTime up at all times so I can see what's going on in your dorm equals normal. If you love me, you will not show any sad or mad emotion because it ruins my mood equals normal. That sex should last more than 45 seconds. He was extremely well endowed. We dated from middle school into college and I wasn't much for porn at the time, so while I knew it was large, that's what I just thought large penises looked like. Turns out something like that is so rare it's even hard to find in porn. Also, turns out sex wasn't supposed to a ridiculous challenge either. My ex put her happiness on me, making it my responsibility. Would demand I stay around and cut my work hours back and then be upset when we wouldn't have money to go out. Every time I would try and leave I was coerced with sex to stay because I was young and stupid. After 8 years I had enough. I moved 5 states away. Had a chain of bad relationships that ended. Took some time to work on myself and am now engaged to an amazing woman I can communicate with, share feelings about issues, and who values a healthy relationship. Actually thinking about the future was a big thing. Since we got together in high school there always seemed to be this idea in the back of my head that this was going to end eventually, and because of that I never really looked at anything like a future together. When we graduated it was just too comfortable to break up, and even though things were fine enough to stay, it was a drag that never ended because I just never really thought of them as the person I wanted to be with forever. It's hard to say when exactly I stopped loving her, but it was a relationship of comfort and convenience more than anything, and when she eventually cheated on me and broke us up, it was still just so easy to get back together on and off after that I could feel myself falling back into a commitment I didn't want to be a part of. Now it's wild to actually think about a future with my partner. I genuinely look forward to stuff like maybe living together or getting married and seeing the world and all that romantic stuff. Before everything was more or less convenience, but I had no idea how great it was to actually look forward to potential life events with someone else. Suicide threats, black eyes, self-harm, manipulation, social media and phone stalking rights, remove female friends from social media plus life. Sex as a currency, must respond to texts within 20 minutes or the result is one or more of the above. Finally got out of that one after 3 long years. Learned a whole lot, helped to build my now very strong relationship though, so hey, take the positive and leave the rest, am I right? He had a birth defect which left him with 2 holes in the tip of his penis. I thought one was for pee and the other was for sperm. My next boyfriend was very confused when I asked him why he only had 1 hole. Edit. Thanks for all the medals. Wow. I'm also embarrassed by how many people have read this. And since there's too many comments to reply to, but I kept getting asked, my school's sex ed program was separated by gender, so I only learned female anatomy. Dicks aren't pretty, so I never went out of my way to look at one up close until I met my boyfriend. I grew up in a pretty strict Christian home and was taught that sex before marriage was a sin. My first teenage boyfriend and I were together for 5 years and never came anywhere close to having sex. At the time, I thought it was because I was a good Christian. Since sex before marriage was wrong, I didn't want to have sex with him. All my friends were either having sex or struggling not to. I didn't understand this because I didn't have the desire to do wrong, just as I didn't have the desire to hurt people or lie or steal. He and I broke up as our lives went in different paths. My next relationship became sexual pretty quickly, and it was only then that I realized that I was never really attracted to my ex, which is why I didn't want to have sex with him. Abuse. I thought occasional abuse was just, part of the mix of things. Sometimes you get good times, sometimes you get attacked. I was just lucky I was big, so she couldn't do much damage. I felt for other guys who probably had it way worse. It was eye-opening to find out random physical attacks weren't just part of the excitement. Girls be crazy, right? Everybody knows that. Emotional and they beat you and draw blood sometimes. Ha ha. Whatever. Ooh, this one is perfect for me. Because of the way my dad was, I wasn't fazed when my first boyfriend constantly ridiculed me for my passions and talents, even when it was in front of everyone. I also thought you had to explicitly say that you did not want to have sex if you were not in the mood that night before you drifted off, otherwise your boyfriend could just stick it in from behind while you were asleep and you couldn't stop him or he'd get really mad. Oh, and I thought I was an asshole for wanting to use a condom when I had work not too much later on that day because I didn't want to walk around with a mess. I also had an IUD. He glared at me and said, "We're supposed to get married." If you're really immature enough to let something like that come between us, maybe you're not mature enough for sex. I think it's fair to say I was in a bad relationship. It wasn't until I was in my third relationship, second guy was worse, that I realized all of that was really bad. The trauma from that and other incidents in the relationship didn't really kick in until I had my realization, which is really weird. My first boyfriend was so ridiculously clingy. Like if we were in bed together we would have to cuddle, otherwise he would cry and think that I was mad at him, when in reality I was just hot and wanted some space. I just thought that's what relationships were. My relationship now is nothing like that. It is so nice to be in the same room, but doing completely separate things and not have to worry about each other.